Hi viewers, this is J. Swami, Assistant Professor of Zoology. Today we are going to discuss the respiration. Under this topic, we are going to see introduction to respiration, definition of respiration, human respiratory system, structure of alveoli, which is the structural and functional unit of the lungs, and different phases of pulmonary respiration, breathing mechanism that includes inspiration and expiration, and certain vocabulary related to breathing. As a part of the introduction, all the organisms have to work for their survival, and in order to work they require continuous energy. They should be provided with continuous energy, and the animals get the required energy in the form of food, because already we learned that the macromolecules which are ingested by the organisms, they will be degraded with the help of the enzymes into micromolecules or assimilable molecules, and these molecules transported to the cells through the circulation, and within the cells they undergo oxidation. This oxidation of food material yields energy, and this energy stored in the form of ATPs. These ATPs are utilized by the organism for their metabolical activities. The oxidation of food material looks like the combustion of fuels, and the definition of the respiration is yielding of energy by the oxidation of food material is the fundamental definition of the respiration. And moreover, here we will see, let us see, here there is a glucose molecule, let us assume. Here there is a glucose molecule C6H12O6. Now here the carbon established bonds with different hydrogen molecules, hydroxyl molecules, so on. Now each and every bond that contain some bond energy. For example, here we will see in between C and H there is a bond which binds C and H together. Whenever these two atoms get attached with each other, combined with each other, they bound by some bond energy, otherwise some chemical energy. Whenever we break down the bond, as usually some amount of energy will be released out. This energy will be stored in the form of ATP, again that is utilized by the organism for its regular needs. Now here all the bonds, if they are broken down, they tend to yield more and more amount of energy, whereas if only some bonds are get degraded, then we will get little yield of energy, little amount of energy. See here there are two kinds of respirations. Whenever we utilize oxygen for the breaking down of the food material, oxygen for the breakdown of the food material, all the bonds which are present among all the atoms of glucose molecule we will break down, and thereby this glucose molecule get converted into 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules, and of about 686 kilocalories of energy. Delta E is equal to 686 kilocalories of energy approximately per mole glucose. In some of the cases, in the process of the fermentation, in the muscle contraction of the animals, in all those activities, there will be a non-utilization of oxygen. There is no need of oxygen for the yielding of energy, but the energy which is yielded by non-utilization of the oxygen is very, very less. In the absence of the oxygen, if the same glucose molecule, if it is undergo breakdown, only here 2 CO2 molecules are released. Remaining 4 carbon molecules, they will be combined together. So that may lead to the formation of the ethyl alcohol. In the case of muscles, that may be the lactic acid, whatever it may be. But all the bonds may not broken down, and the energy yield is very, very less. 54 kilocalories of energy per mole glucose. 54 kilocalories of energy per mole glucose. Here, if you compare the yield of energy in both aerobic and anaerobic forms, it is of about 12 to 13 times less. The anaerobic respiration yield of energy is 12 to 13 times less when compared to the aerobic respiration. That is, in order to yield more energy from the consumed food, the animals require oxygen. That is again obtained through the process of respiration. And the yielded energy is stored in the form of ATPs. Right? These ATPs are commonly known as the energy currency of the cells. Energy currency of the cells. Right? Now, if you come to the different organisms and their organs for the obtaining oxygen from the air, otherwise from the external environment. Let us see from the basic level, from the initial level, the animals like the unicellular animals like protozoans, they respire with their plasma lemma. They obtain oxygen and sends out carbon dioxide through the plasma lemma only through the process of diffusion. If you come to the furthermore developed organisms like the annelids, they also show the cutaneous respiration. They have moist skin and through which oxygen carbon dioxide transportation takes place. And if you come to the arthropods, in the arthropods, aquatic arthropods, they have the gills, and the insect-like organisms, they have the tracheal respiration, and the organisms like the spider, they have the book gills, book lungs, and the organisms like the king crab, they have the book gills. Here there are various organisms with various respiratory organs. If you come to the mollusca, they have Ctenidia as their respiratory organ. Otherwise, in some of them there is air sac, pulmonary respiration is also seen. And where in the case of echinoderms, the papillae of the tube feet, that takes care of the respiration. And if you come to the vertebrates, we will see in the fishes usually gill slits, and some of them they also exhibit the pulmonary respiration by having lungs, like the lungfishes. If you observe the amphibians, in the amphibians cutaneous respiration is there. At the surface of the buccal epithelium, and pulmonary respiration is also seen. During the larval stages, they respire with the gills, bronchial respiration. If you come to the reptiles, as usually pulmonary respiration, and some of the sea turtles, they exhibit cloacal respiration. Sea turtles exhibit cloacal respiration. And in the case of aves, pulmonary respiration through the air sacs, and finally in the mammals, the fundamental respiratory organs are the lungs. Like that, as and when there is a gradual increase in the process of the organic evolution, then there will be a development of the specific organs in order to obtain the oxygen from the environment. So these are the specificities of various animals apart from the respiratory organs. Now see the respiratory system of human beings. The mammals are the highly developed organisms, and the internal systemic organization is also highly developed. Gaseous exchange takes place in the highly modernized way through the alveolar lungs. So due to the organic evolution, the human beings are in the high position in the development, so that if we see, let us see the respiratory system of the human beings. Respiratory system of the human beings. Here, the respiratory system of the human being starts with the external nostrils. It starts with the external nostrils. One pair of external nostrils are there. They are just present above the upper lip, and these two nostrils, external nostrils, they open into the nasal passage or the nasal chamber. The nasal chamber, actually there are two nasal chambers which are get separated by a nasal septum, and each nasal septum or each nasal chamber divide into anterior vestibular part and the middle respiratory part and posterior olfactory part within the nasal chamber. In general, vestibular part, it enriches with the air and which filter the air. And the respiratory part, we will find out the turbinals, spring-like bones, and in the olfactory part, it is just near to the internal nostrils. Okay, then followed by the internal nostrils. Internal nostrils, they are open into nasopharynx. They are open into nasopharynx. This nasopharyngeal region is a common way for both the food and as well as the air. This opens into the larynx. The anterior part of the larynx is known as the glottis. Glottis covered by epiglottis. This is the glottis and covered by the epiglottis. As usually, the larynx is nothing but the sound producing organ of the mammals, otherwise the human beings. There is a large cricoid cartilage, and there are two arytenoid cartilages, one cricoid cartilage and two arytenoid cartilages, and another two Santorini plates. Other two are the Santorini cartilages. Here, in the arytenoids and thyroid cartilage, we will find out one pair of vocal cords, and the gap in between the vocal cords is known as the rhinoglottids, and due to the presence of the vocal cords and their vibration, that results in the production of the sound. And coming to the latter part, the pipe-like structure which is known as the windpipe, otherwise the trachea, which is supported by the C-shaped cartilaginous rings and which are incomplete. They keep the trachea always open, and inside the trachea it is lined by the pseudostratified ciliated epithelium, and this trachea get divided into two branches. Here we will see this is the trachea. Here we are going to observe this is a trachea. It is divided into two branches. It is divided into two branches. Trachea that is divided into two branches. Each branch is known as a primary bronchi. Each branch is known as primary bronchi. They are again subdivided into secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, like that. Finally, that will open into a bunch of grapes bunch like structure is known as the alveoli. Finally, that opens into the alveoli. Alveoli is the structural and functional unit of the lungs. Structural and functional unit of the lungs. Then there are one pair of lungs which are present in the thoracic cavity, one on the either side of the heart. Each lung is enclosed in a double layered peritoneum called the pleural membrane. The outer layer is known as the parietal pleura and inner layer is known as the visceral pleura. In between them there is a pleural cavity which is filled up with the pleural fluid. This pleural fluid acts like the lubricant. Then if you observe the structure of the trachea, structure of the alveoli, here the alveoli are looks like the bunch of the grapes. 8 alveoli fused to form a specific structure which is known as the atrium. In atrium, each and every atrium there are 8 alveoli. Right? If you see only one alveoli, then each and every alveoli is round sac-like structure. Each and every alveoli is round sac-like structure. There are of about 700 million alveoli. So here there is a single unit atrium, right? And there are of about 700 million alveoli in the lungs of the human beings. If you arrange them side by side, they occupy of about 70 to 90 square meters. 70 to 90 square meters, which is almost all equal to a tennis court. And these alveoli surrounded by a thin epithelial membrane which is known as a squamous epithelium, 0.1 micrometers. Squamous epithelium. Alveoli surrounded by a thin epithelial membrane which is known as the squamous epithelium membrane. Above the squamous epithelium there is a enriched vasculature where here we will observe the blue color one is a pulmonary artery. As and when it reaches the alveoli, it capillarized, and afterwards again they fused to form the pulmonary vein, which is seen in the red color. That is pulmonary artery. Whenever it reaches the alveoli, get capillarized, and all these capillaries again fused to form the pulmonary vein. Then in this layer we will see collagen and the elastin fibers. Due to the presence of collagen and elastin, during the process of inspiration and expiration, there will be a easy expansion and as well as the recoiling of lungs takes place. And the epithelial cells which are present in the membrane, they secrete a foam like substance which is known as a surfactant, which is known as a surfactant, which is a foam-like substance. Then what are the functions of this foam-like substance? So as we discussed, there are 700 million alveoli. They occupy 70 to 90 square meters, equal to tennis court, covered by squamous epithelium, enriched with capillaries, pulmonary artery, capillarized and form the pulmonary vein. Then here there are certain functions for the surfactant. Epithelial cells of the lungs, alveoli, they secrete a foam-like substance which is a surfactant. The main functions of the surfactant are it keeps the alveoli always moist inside. It keeps the alveoli moist always, and then reduces the surface tension, and thereby we will easily inspire. That facilitates the expansion of lungs and speeds up the gases exchange in the alveoli, and also meant for the defense. It kills the bacteria. And if you observe the composition of the surfactant, phospholipids and cholesterol, they comprise 90 to 95%. And there are 4 types of surfactant proteins: surfactant protein A, surfactant protein B, C and D. They comprise of about 5 to 10%. Out of all these 4 surfactant proteins, surfactant protein A and surfactant protein D, they meant for the defense, they kill the bacteria, whereas the surfactant B and surfactant C, they form thin moist layer which is useful for the exchange of the gases, right? Then if you see, here if you observe the entire respiratory system of the human beings, if you see the functional status, half of the respiratory system is acting like the conducting part, right from the external nostrils to that of the bronchi. Whereas if you observe the bronchioles and as well as the alveoli, they contribute the respiratory part. Based on the functional status of the respiratory system, one is transporting, conducting part, another one is mediating the respiration, right? So here, right from external nostrils to bronchus, it is a conduction part, whereas bronchioles, alveolar sacs and alveoli, that is a part of the respiration. Then we will come to the next area where there are different phases in the process of respiration. There are basically 5 phases, namely pulmonary ventilation, simply we will call it as a breathing, inspiration, external respiration, transport of gases, internal respiration and the cellular respiration. Pulmonary respiration deals with pulmonary ventilation, otherwise we will call it as inhalation. This is the first phase of gaseous exchange, where the environment, it is always oxygen rich, it contains plenty of oxygen in the environment, that is breathed inside, inhaled inside into the lungs, and thereby we will exhale the carbon dioxide which is present in the lungs to the outside. Intake of oxygen to lungs and exit of carbon dioxide to outside is nothing but the breathing, otherwise inhalation, which is nothing but the pulmonary ventilation. And come to the external respiration, where we will observe this is the second phase of gaseous exchange, that is the exchange of gases in between the air of the lungs and the blood. Air of the lungs and the blood. Otherwise, in between the lungs and the blood. In this stage, the oxygen which is present in the alveoli that transported into, diffused into blood capillaries, and the carbon dioxide from the blood that diffused into alveoli. So, external respiration in between the lungs and as well as the blood capillaries. O2 goes from lungs into the blood vessels and CO2 from blood vessels into the lungs. And transport of gases. Here in the transportation, there is a, as we know, there is a systemic circulation and the pulmonary circulation. That is, most of the pure blood that reaches the various organs, tissues and cells, and the carbon dioxide from organs to lungs. So, there will be a systemic and pulmonary circulation, right? That is, the oxygen reaches the cells, that is transported, and again from the tissues there will be a transportation of CO2. And coming to the internal respiration. Internal respiration, that is, the gases which are present in the blood capillaries, there will be exchange in between cells, that is oxygen released into the cells, and the cells export the carbon dioxide into the blood again. This is the third phase of the gaseous exchange. And finally, the cellular respiration. What happens in the cellular respiration? For example, this is a cell. In the cell, we have the food material, and due to the internal respiration, we also got oxygen. This oxygen act upon the food material and that cleave the food material into CO2, H2O and the energy. CO2, H2O and energy. This will take place in various steps. Cellular respiration is nothing but the production of energy, yielding of energy by the degradation of food material by utilization of the oxygen. Right? Now, in the cellular respiration, the breakdown of food material like the glucose that takes place in various steps in the aerobic respiration, that is namely glycolysis, Krebs cycle and through the electron transport system. So, by the completion of electron transport system, all the food material which is in the form of glucose that will be degraded into 6 carbon dioxides and 6 water molecules, and it yield of about 686 kilocalories of energy per mole glucose. And then see the mechanism of breathing. In the mechanism of breathing, as we know, there are 2 steps. One is the inspiration, another one is the expiration, inhalation and exhalation otherwise. See here what happens when we will breathe in and when we will breathe out. See here, this is the thoracic cavity, and this thoracic region, it is covered by dorsally with the vertebral column. The dorsal side there is a vertebral column, ventral side there is a sternum, in the posterior region there is a diaphragm. Okay. Now, whenever the man, they tend to breathe in, what happens, what is the mechanism that is happening to breathe in is, whenever the individual is in normal position, okay, there will be no change in the internal pressure of the lungs. Now, during the inspiration, breathe in time, what happens? There is a contraction of the muscles of the diaphragm. Contraction of the muscles of the diaphragm. Basically, that will be like a dome. Diaphragm like a dome. Due to the contraction of the muscles of the diaphragm, it is somewhat flattened. And thereby what happens? There will be a enhancement of the area antero-posteriorly. The thoracic cavity extended in the antero-posterior region. Whereas if there is a contraction of the external intercostal muscles are the muscles of the ribs which are present in between the ribs. Due to the contraction of the external intercostal muscles, there will be a increase in the thoracic cavity in dorsoventral alignment, dorsoventral sides. Due to the contraction of the diaphragm, there will be enhancement of the thoracic cavity in the antero-posterior regions, whereas due to the contraction of the external intercostal muscles, there will be increase of the thoracic cavity in the dorsoventral region, and thereby totally the thoracic cavity will be enhanced, and thereby there is a development of the negative pressure. Negative pressure means the pressure will be lowered. The lung, the air which is present inside the lungs, the pressure will be lowered. Whenever there is a lowering of the pressure, then automatically the air is inhaled inside. The air is inhaled inside. Then afterwards, what happens? The breathing in, otherwise inspiration, is a active process where it requires energy for the contraction of the muscles. And if you observe the expiration, otherwise the exhalation, what happens? The diaphragm muscles, they relax, and thereby they form the diaphragm into dome shape, and then due to the relaxation of the muscles of the intercostal muscles, then thereby there will be a contraction of the cavity in the dorsoventral region, and thereby there will be a enhancement of the pressure within the lungs that leads to the expiration of the breathing includes inspiration and the expiration. Just now we discussed that inspiration is the active process, contraction of diaphragm that enhances the thoracic cavity in the antero-posterior region, and the contraction of external intercostal muscles that increase the thoracic cavity in the dorsoventral and as well as the lateral positions too. And thereby there will be a development of the negative pressure, and as a result of this we will inhale the air inside. And when the expiration, it is a passive process. Here a relaxation of the diaphragm takes place, and thereby it attains dome shape. Relaxation of the external intercostal muscles that move the ribcage to its original position. In general, expiration is a passive process, but if you go for the forceful expiration, it is a active process in which there is a involvement of the contraction of internal intercostal muscles and the abdominal muscles. This is about the expiration. And there are various important terms which will come across during the respiration. It is highly useful in the competitive exams too. Here there is a tidal volume, TV. Tidal volume means the volume of air which is moved in or out during a respiratory cycle. It is of about 500 ml. Second one is inspiratory reserve volume, IRV. Volume that can be inhaled during the forced breathing in addition to tidal volume. Tidal volume is 500, and in addition it is 2500 ml, totally 3000 ml. And expiratory reserve volume, ERV, volume that can be exhaled during forced breathing in addition to the tidal volume. Tidal volume is 500 ml, and the forcible breathing that maybe takes out 1000 ml, totally 1500 ml. And residual volume, the amount of the air which remains in the lungs after the forceful expiration. After the forceful expiration also we will contain some sort of air, that is the 1100 to 1200 ml. And inspiratory capacity of the individual IC is tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume. TV is the tidal volume and IRV is the inspiratory reserve volume. And functional residual capacity FRC is equal to expiratory reserve volume ERV and plus residual volume. Then vital capacity VC, maximum volume of air that can be exhaled after taking the deepest breath possible. VC, vital capacity, is equal to tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume plus expiratory reserve volume. And finally, the total lung capacity, total volume of air that the lungs can hold, that is TLC, is equal to total lung capacity is equal to VC, vital capacity, plus residual volume. So these are the terms frequently asked in many competitive exams. So this is all about the introduction to digestion and human digestive introduction to respiration and human respiratory system, and the expiration inspiration, that is the breathing mechanism, and the terms which are useful, the vocabulary which is useful in the studying the respiration. Thank you one and all.